Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the End Zone Enthusiast. And we are making our predictions today for week 10. Can you believe week 10 of the NFL? But before we do, why are we the End Zone Enthusiasts? Well, we are football fans who are also roller coaster fans. And today's shirt is Montu, which you can find at Busch Gardens, Tampa, which I just came back from a couple days ago here. An amazing amusement park, an amazing coaster. And you know what else I got? Well, you know, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan here, right? But I am also a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan right here, creamsicle color. So I love both teams equally. So right here, love the Eagles. They are number one in our power rankings. But you know what? We're going to give the Buccaneers a little bit of love here. And we are going to go over the entire picks. Right now, we are currently, as you can tell at the bottom there, we went 10-4 last week there. Couple games, we were a little bit off on, but I did pick Buffalo and all that. And overall this year, we were 88 wins and 46 losses. We are almost at 750 with our rankings. So 75, that is a solid C, guys. But you know what? I'm feeling good about this week here. But before we get started, you got to talk about who's on bye. Yes, there are 4 teams on bye week. The Cincinnati Bengals, who, let's be honest, definitely need this bye week. They have had a rough last couple games. So they definitely need this bye, kind of shake off all that bad juju. The Dallas Cowboys, who made a couple moves during the trade deadline there, they're going to see how they can get that team right there because they got their butt handed to them against Arizona. You got Tennessee, who, let's be honest, is a lost season there. They're just trying to limp to the end of the year and get a high draft pick. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, who ended up losing to Buffalo. So now they can lick their wounds with their 4 losses. Boy, that sounds great to say. 4 losses and see if they can salvage this season. There is actually a chance that they do not make the playoffs. How amazing would that be? From Super Bowl to not making the playoffs. That would be a dream. But those 4 teams are taking a break, and we're going to start off with tonight's game. The Las Vegas Raiders against the Denver Broncos. Now, the Raiders at this point there's a lot of problems with Geno Smith. They might actually have to go with AOC soon because he is really giving these games away here. And I feel bad for Crosby and those guys just because of the fact that, they want to win. Now, the good news for one of the players on the Raiders, Jacoby Myers, did jump ship, and he is now with Jacksonville. So that is a huge win for Jacksonville, a huge loss for the Raiders. So going into this game, they're shorthanded. Going up against Denver, who, let's be honest, they're not winning pretty, but they are winning. And that's all that matters in this league. So many fourth quarter comebacks. The defense has been stellar. So I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I think it's going to be a blowout with the Denver Broncos. I think the Raiders at this point there are pretty much in the same boat as the Tennessee Titans. They're just trying to get to the end of the season, limp across, and then hopefully rebuild for next year. So Denver, you're going to get this victory. I guarantee it. Next one is another overseas. Now, this, I believe, is either Germany or Spain. So they're no longer in England. They're no longer in South America. They are now at least in Germany or Spain. But it is a pretty interesting matchup. You got the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Colts were the darlings of the NFL. Even last week when they lost by double digits, they were still the darling there. Pittsburgh had their number, figured out how to stop them. Now, did Pittsburgh give a blueprint, or was it just a bad game for Jonathan Taylor and company? We're going to find out here because they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. And the thing with the Atlanta Falcons is you don't know what team you're going to get. Are you going to get the team that gets blown out by Carolina, or are you going to get the team that ends up, winning against great teams? This would be a big test for Atlanta because the fact of the matter is it was supposed to be them and Tampa Bay for the division. But now Atlanta, you're looking up at not just Tampa Bay, which we expected, but also the Carolina Panthers. So your season really much is coming down to this game. And what's my predictions? I think the Colts are going to right the ship. I think Atlanta has some talent, but I don't think they have it all together. I think the coach may actually be fired at the end of the year if they do not make the playoffs. But with that being said, I think the Colts, Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones, whatever you want to call him, is going to have a great time in Europe. So that is my pick there. The next game is during the 1 o'clock window. It is young quarterbacks galore. You've got Jackson Dart going up against Caleb Williams here and company. Now, the Giants losing Scatterboo, losing Neighbors, huge losses here. The only young guy you got left right now is Jackson Dart, and he's been really putting the entire team on his shoulders right now. Now, I'm hoping that the pass rush, you look at that pass rush, it should be a fantastic pass rush, but it hasn't really been coming through yet for the Giants. Meanwhile, you got Chicago, who pulled off a great victory last week, and they've been winning these closer games. You can definitely tell that Ben Johnson is really changed the culture of Chicago. They're going into these games thinking they can win and having almost like a little chip on their shoulder here. So how do I think this one's going to go? I think the Bears are going to win, but I think it's going to be a pretty close one here. What's going to end up happening is there's just a lot more weapons on the Bears side than there is on the Giants side. So even though I think head-to-head, I think Dart is better than Williams, I think just overall team-wise, I think the Bears are going to get that victory. Next one here is a game that should have been a marquee game when they put it together, the Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins. And this was supposed to be 1-2. New England wasn't even supposed to be in the picture. And, of course, the Jets, they aren't in the picture. But these two teams have gone through rocky areas of the year. The problem is Miami has 80% rocky, 20% good, while it's 20% 80 good for the Buffalo Bills. So going into this, Buffalo's got a huge victory over Kansas City. They're riding high. They're hitting on all cylinders on offense. So defense gets me a little nervous because the injuries keep piling up. But you look at Miami's in tatters. At this point, every once in a while they have a good game, but the reality is they cannot the best way to say it is they do not have enough bullets in the chamber to keep up with Buffalo. So with this one, Buffalo's going to keep pace with the Pats because the Patriots are right now, believe it or not, up 2 games in that division. Buffalo can't really slide to teams like Miami, so they're going to step up. They're going to get this victory. The next one is the Turning Point Bowl. Now, this has nothing. Hold on. Boom. The Turning Point Bowl. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. This has to do with 2 teams that really are at a turning point of their league. You got Baltimore, who really fell apart early in the season there. They're supposed to be the ones that were going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And at this point, they're fighting to just get the 500. Meanwhile, you got Minnesota, who was doing Carson Wentz for a while because JJ was hurt, but JJ came back last week. Both teams got much needed victories last week for them to actually start moving forward. The key is with this game, which team's going to take the next step and which team's going to fall back and probably be done with their playoffs. It can go either way here. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson back, but you got JJ McCarthy back on the offense for Minnesota. The key is going to be, is Baltimore going to have to win the shootout or is their defense going to step up? And believe it or not, I'm going to go with JJ being the real deal and pulling off this victory and pretty much, unless Pittsburgh falls apart, pretty much killing the playoff hopes of the Baltimore Ravens. Pittsburgh needs to continue to win to get that distance there because I think they're only a game and a half or 2 games up. They need to keep that going there. But with Baltimore stumbling here, it's a must win for Baltimore. If Baltimore loses, their season's done. And I think that's going to happen on Sunday. Next game is the Bader Freedoms United Bowl. Cleveland against the Jets. Both of these teams are top 5 draft picks for next year. There you got the Browns, who may put in Shador, may not put in Shador. Nobody gives a crap about Shador. At this point, they got a great defense. Myles Garrett and all those guys, 5 sacks last week. Amazing on that end there too. But I think at this point, is the offense going to keep up with them there? Meanwhile, I got the Jets, who basically did a complete fire sale. The only guy left is Hall. Pretty much the sauce is gone. The defense has been decimated there. They are playing with backups to the backups. So without further ado, the Jets have nobody left. So the Browns are going to win by default here. Mainly because the defense is going to just keep going after whatever quarterback they put in there, and it's not going to be pretty. Next one here is the game of the week, guys. This is the game of the week, and it's a 1:00 game. I wish they could start flexing because games like this need to be prime time. You got the New England Patriots, the leader by 2 games in the AFC East, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, people, with Baker Mayfield. Now, they had a bye week last week with Tampa Bay. They needed that bye week, and our fingers are crossed that Godwin and Bucky can get back into it, because really Baker has been playing with one hand tied behind his back. He's been throwing to Shepard. Ibuka's there, but he wasn't 100%. Hopefully they get these people back and they can start playing in these games, because these games matter, especially with Carolina on their butt. Meanwhile, you got the Patriots who are cruising along. And last week, in the second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, Drake May disappeared. And you can't have that against a good team like the Buccaneers. So what's going to happen here? A lot of it's going to be determined on who's playing. And at the time that I'm doing this on Thursday, I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be Bucky comes back, but we don't know yet. But either way, I think Mayfield's going to have one of his amazing comeback games, and he's going to get the victory. So, Buccaneers, I'm going for you this time. Don't let me down. Next game is the South Not Rising Bowl. You know, they always say the South's going to rise again. Well, these two teams, not really. You got the New Orleans Saints, who yet again are a top 5 draft pick team. You know, they show some fight, but they're going with the 27-year-old rookie now. They gave up on Rattler. Going up against Carolina, who is just getting these victories. Even last week, it was not a pretty game with Bryce Young. However, they're able to pull off the victory. And I think it's one of those games, kind of them in Denver this year, where the close games are going to Carolina. And I think that's going to be the case here. I think good teams need to win these kind of games. And I think Carolina's a good team. Because of that, I think it's going to be Carolina Panthers are going to take this victory. Next one is the South Rising Again, Part 2. And this one is actually a little bit better matchup here. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who yet again are in second place right behind the Colts, going against the defending champions in that division, AFC South, the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans got a good win last week, but Stroud keeps getting massacred, and I don't know if he's playing or not. Meanwhile, Jacksonville were actually not sellers this time. They actually got Jacoby Myers, and I think Jacoby Myers is going to step up that offense for Trevor Lawrence. They've already had a great running attack with ETN, but they were lacking that receiver. Brian Thompson Jr. was not pulling it off. Travis Henry is hurt, so he's not going to be able to play here. So I really think Jacoby Myers was a great pickup, and the Jags are going to prove that they are a good team with this victory. They're going to add some separation, pretty much kill Houston's chance of winning that division, also killing their chances of making the playoffs. So there's a lot of teams that if they lose, like Baltimore or Minnesota and stuff like that, if they lose, they're going to be done for the year. And I think that's going to be the case with Houston. The next one here is the Beatdown Bowl. Now, I didn't know much about what was going on with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm on the East Coast. I'm down south. Wherever I'm at, I don't go to the West Coast. But last week, Sunday Night Football, I could see what the Seahawks can do. And this week, they're playing Arizona, who also won last week there with Jacoby Brissett. But I don't think that's going to matter. What I saw with Seattle was a team that was complete dominance on both sides of the ball. Against a decent offense, they were able to shut them down with Dallas. So with that being said, I really think, with Washington, they were able to shut down Daniels. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a beatdown of horrible proportions. And I think the Seahawks are going to blow out the Arizona Cardinals. And I hope so, because they are my eliminator / suicide pool pick. I'm still alive after 9 weeks. That is amazing. So fingers crossed, Seahawks, you're going to do that for me. The next one is a great matchup here. How the West is won. Literally, you got the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams that both have the same record with 2 losses each. So they're both with Seattle, top dog there. So San Francisco beat the Rams earlier in this season, and if they win again, they can pretty much put 2 games behind them in the Rams. So it's a huge victory for San Francisco if they can pull it off. However, San Francisco every week is losing 2, 3, 27 players at a time. The only guy healthy right now is McCaffrey. Jones is getting a little bit better, Mac Jones and Purdy. But either way, like I said, the injuries keep piling up there. Meanwhile, the Rams, Stafford looks like he's 30 again. He is playing amazing. You've got, even when Puka's hurt, because Puka did get hurt last week, Devontae Adams steps up there. They're just a really complete team. And because of that, I think if you're looking at it, Stafford is just better than what Purdy or Jones. And I think Stafford's going to be the difference in this game. It's going to be the Rams' victory there. And you're going to start seeing San Francisco start sliding down those poles. Next game here is what could have been bowl. Detroit Lions against the Washington Commanders. Now, Detroit, ugly loss. Ugly loss. You cannot put lipstick on this pig. But they still are in good shape because most of their players are healthy. Washington got the devastating news that Jane Daniels is going to be out for a long time. That elbow should not bend that way. So with that being said, this one's going to be pretty easy. The Lions are just going to be way too much for Washington at this point, especially without their leader. Mariota can only do so much. They need to see if they can find another quarterback. And you can't trade at this point. The trade deadline's over. So at this point, they're going to have to see if there's a free agent out there they can grab. And for Sunday night, you got a pretty good matchup. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the LA Chargers. Pittsburgh at this point there, if they keep winning, they got that division. They're going to get a probably fourth seed, maybe third seed there. But they got to keep winning. Meanwhile, the Chargers are in a battle with trying to separate themselves from Kansas City. Both Denver and the Chargers, yeah, they want to win the division, but they want to be ahead of Kansas City. And if they both can be ahead of Kansas City has a great chance of not making the playoffs here. So this is going to be a pretty even matchup here. Both of these teams I know a lot about and I don't know a lot about. So it's going to be one of those things where I'm kind of doing a flip of the coin. And my coin's telling me the Chargers are not going to charger it up. The Chargers are actually going to win this game, a key game that they need to win against Pittsburgh. And last but not least is a Monday night game for the ages here. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles coming off 2 victories in a row in a bye week. They added depth to their defense. On corner, they added 2 real Jair Alexander, which would be awesome to see him play against Green Bay, and another corner. And then they also got a linebacker who's all about putting pressure on the quarterback. Where they were weak, Howie went there and put it together because they didn't really need to do much on offense at this point there. And their offense is starting to click. Jalen Hurts is starting to show that, he can hit those mid-range. He's always great at the deep ball. He's always great at the dump-offs. It's that middle range there, the 5 to 15-yard, 10 to 20-yard range where he always have problems. He was starting to show it there. And you know what? Everybody should be healthy and ready to go. Going against Green Bay, who had a horrible loss, horrible, pathetic loss last week. And they had a week to stew on it there to lick their wounds and figure out what the heck happened there. With that being said, guys, Eagles take that victory. Yes, we know it there. So one last time, we're going to go through our winners. We're going to have Denver tonight beating the Vegas Raiders. We have the Indianapolis Colts going overseas and beating the Falcons. On the 1 o'clock games, we got Chicago beating the Giants. We got Buffalo beating Miami. We got Minnesota in a must-win beating Baltimore. Whoever loses this is pretty much done for the year. You got Cleveland beating up the hapless Jets. You've got Tampa Bay. I got 2 hats. Tampa Bay beating New England in a last-minute one with Baker Mayfield. You have Carolina beating the Saints. And then wrapping up the 1 o'clocks, you got Jacksonville beating Houston. For the 4 o'clock games, we got Seattle beating Arizona and the Rams beating San Francisco and Detroit beating Washington. On the Sunday night, I got the Chargers on the coin flip beating the Steelers. And for Monday night, I got the Eagles beating Tom Grassi and the Packer Nation there with the Eagles taking out Green Bay. So, guys, on Tuesday, we're going to do a wrap-up. On Wednesday, we're going to do our power ranking. Thursday, we're going to be right here with a new sheet saying Week 11 there. So, one more time. Fly, Eagles, fly. Baker's got to bake. And Buffalo, just keep doing what you're doing.